All right. Well, it's time for children's church for you guys who are going to head out. So I know we got a couple new volunteers today, and so excited for our kids. I know the past couple of weeks with Mother's Day and last week graduation, we didn't have children's church, but there's that time at the end of the time of worship through music that our kids will head over to the gym. And today's going to be a little bit different because it's church conference at the end. They'll actually bring your kids back towards the end of the invitation time, so you don't have to go to the gym and get them. But I love that song we just sang. You're God alone from before time began. And regardless of life circumstances that come against us or come into our lives, I'm just so grateful that He is God and that we are not, and that we can trust Him. Because sometimes when we look at our circumstances, I think about Peter walking on the water. When you look at the storms around you, it's so easy to take our eyes off Jesus and to get worried about what we see. But grateful that we can sing those songs to remember. And even as we come to today, to this weekend of Memorial Day where it's hard to say celebrate, but it's where we remember, where we honor those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom, and for the families that still mourn and grieve and remember on this day. We are forever grateful for the freedoms that our soldiers have fought for through the centuries to give us the freedom to come into this place and to worship. And with that comes definitely emotions, but also joy and gratitude that we live in the country that we do. So in that, and also as we watch the video of some of our own church family and friends that have gone on to be with the Lord this past year, it's just humbling how quickly time passes. And there's no words of thank you or even what we can say here to even justify or to say thank you for those who served, and to say see you later for those who have gone home this year. And just thinking about what Memorial Day weekend is, this past weekend, words that kept coming to my mind was sacrifice, was freedom, and could not help but think about obviously the love of our Father who would lay down His Son for us and sacrifice everything, to sacrifice all of glory in heaven, to step down and be born as a baby, and to pay the price that He knew was coming for our sin. And when He did that, it made possible this relationship that we have, the reason that we can gather in this room to worship. And so I thought about that verse, greater love has no one than this, than someone lay down his life for his friends. And so if you have your Bibles, hopefully you've already turned there. We're going to be in John 15 this morning. John chapter 15, that familiar passage, the I'm the vine, you the branches. He that remains in me and I in Him will bear much fruit, but apart from me you can do nothing. I love that passage, and it's just that reminder that we've got to stay connected to the vine. But as we read here, this is part of the latter part of John 15. We're going to begin in verse 12, where it says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends. For all that I've heard from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, He may give it to you. These things I command you, so that you will love one another." This entire passage, these few verses 12 to 17, you have these bookends, this command to love one another. I command you to be quiet. Huh? Yeah. Some of you are like, I can't do it. Are any of y'all like that, where if somebody tells you, I command you, you've got to do it, that something inside of you rebels? Okay, maybe not. My family knows this about me. It is part of my humanness. But if you say, hey, Rusty, will you clean out the dishwasher? Man, I would love to clean out the dishwasher. Rusty, you better clean out the dishwasher. my attitude changes. I don't know what it is. It's like I said, it's part of the human part of me. Maybe none of y'all are like this, but when you think about commands, I can't help but think about the military. I mean, it's all about following the drill sergeant and what he says, and if you don't do it, there's a price to be paid. But when we think about Jesus Christ, we think about that term of a friend, or we think of Father, but I mean, Jesus is also Lord. I remember Pastor Zach Hamilton several years ago, he used to refer to Jesus a lot of times as the boss. And so sometimes when you think of those different terms, whether it's Lord, boss, master, some of those have different, I guess, connotations or emotions that come with those words. But Jesus, he showed great love for us. And he does command us. He says, I command you to love one another as I have loved you. This is this one characteristic that sets us apart as Christians, is that word love. You know, a new command. We see it in John 13, a couple of chapters before this, where he says, a new command I give you, that you love one another just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. When the city of Orange thinks about North Orange Baptist Church, is love the word that they think of? Like, that is a place where they love you. We've used that word family. Man, that's a place where you're family. So when I think of family, you think of love and acceptance. Also think of fighting, any of your families. I mean, family is a place where you can be real. It's a place where we can love one another, we can be real with one another, we can hurt with each other. But I think about, what are some of the other words people might say when they see our church, or maybe they might see when they look at Rusty, or I won't call any of your names because you're going to go, okay, he said my name and then he started this list. What if they see you and they judge people? What if when you come around the corner and go, man, they're gossipy. Man, that person is so lazy. They're selfish. They're prideful, arrogant, loving. That's the word I want people when they see Rusty, when they see you, to go, man, that person they love. They might not get it right, but I know that they love me. And that's our challenge, is as when we love one another, people will know that we are his disciples. And you can't help but think back to the conversation that Jesus had with the Pharisees when he was asked, what is the greatest commandment? And he quickly quotes the Shema from Deuteronomy, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. When we love our neighbor well, people see Jesus in us. And we think about the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5. I mean, what's the first fruit? The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. If you know the song, you know the scripture. But love is that first characteristic of us as Christ followers. And as we keep reading, that's also the sound of love. When you hear a baby, I mean, I remember, getting married. I digress, just hearing Walker's beautiful sound. Just being a parent for the first time. I remember when I met Michelle, I was in love at ETBU. It took her a year to figure it out, but I was in love a lot earlier than I think she was. And we were married for 5 years, and we actually, on our 5th wedding anniversary in June 24th, we found out that we were pregnant with Morgan. And it's just one of those things, you get married, and then you're supposed to have kids. So we have kids, if God allowed. And I remember, but it's like, I guess when I entered life, I was looking forward to marriage. I think a lot of the women, like, they dream of, I can't wait to have a baby. That wasn't me. I knew you're supposed to have kids. And man, I can't even fathom life without them. But I remember when Morgan was born, it was like this light switch turned on in me that all of a sudden somebody I don't even know that you could just love. And so just that word love that God has for us. And I know just me as this imperfect, messed up human father, if I can love my kid, my girls, my wife in an imperfect way, But Jesus, he talks about, here's another picture of love here, in verse 13, greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. When I think about military sacrifice, so many of those are our soldiers when they have given their life on the battlefield. It's to protect their immediate friends, the company, the battalion that they are a part of. And it's just this powerful, heartbreaking image. But when you think about Jesus, we immediately, I think about soldiers with this weekend giving their life for their friends and ultimately for us as Americans. But you think about what Jesus did for us on the cross, that sacrifice that he made. He knew, he was born to die. He knew how, he knew the why. And it's this picture of this extravagant love. And of course, when you think about the military sacrifice, they are dying for people that they love for. They fought with, the soldiers, us as moms and dads. I can remember my dad making his comment, probably okay to say online since they're probably watching, but I remember my dad telling us, if anybody ever hurts any of my family, I will take them out and I'll bury them under the driveway. They'll never find the body. So maybe moms and dads, you feel that way. But it's that I'm willing to give my life for my kids. I will do whatever it takes. And so we know what that feels like in God the Father. And it's easy to say, hey, I will give my life for someone good, for someone I love, for someone I care about. But look at Romans 5, verses 7 and 8. It says, for one will scarcely die for a righteous person, though perhaps for a good person one would dare even to die. But God showed his love for us, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. It's easy to say I want to die for someone I love, someone that I care about that's a good person. But he died for you and me. We are sinners. We were dead in our sin, lost in our sin, not asking for forgiveness. The criminal that hung beside Jesus on those crosses on both sides, both deserved death. Jesus died for them. He died for the sinners, not just the good. He died for all of us. And John 10, we see this picture too where, Jesus is this good shepherd who lays down his life for his sheep. In big fancy words, we use this, these theology books. This was Jesus's vicarious substitutionary atonement. 3 real big words. You're going, what? Just say, hey, he laid down his life for us. The word vicarious, Jesus did it for us. He took our place because we deserve to be on the cross dying. Substitutionary. He was our replacement. Because of our sin, the Bible says we deserve to die. Not Jesus, who was sinless, but he took our place on the cross. And that's that word atonement. He atoned for our sin. He paid the sacrifice that we deserve to make, and he reconciled us. He redeemed us. All those big fancy words we're just trying to describe how could God take this beautiful child who is cute and one of the things that I learned about kids is you don't have to teach them to sin. As cute as they are, as we grow up, we want what we want and we say what we think, and we have to be trained. No, that's wrong. You got to do it this way. But we're fighting against that sinful nature inside of us. And God died for us. He took that sin price for us so that I could have a relationship with the Father. And as our worship team was up here leading us in worship, that we could sing songs to him, this reminder that he is on his throne and that he, regardless of life circumstances, he is with us and for us. But he died on the cross so that we could have a relationship with him. And that's love in action. It's not just words. 1 John 3:16 says, by this we know love, that he laid down his life for us. And we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers. It's that model behavior. Jesus did it for us. And he said, hey, are you willing to lay down your life for others? And part of laying down our life for others is not just physically dying, but sometimes it means giving up your free time because I care about sharing my faith with somebody else, because I know that if they don't hear Jesus from me, they might not ever hear it. And so part of sacrifice is sacrificing your time. Part of sacrifice is going to happen here in a little bit when we pass those baskets. When you're going, that's my money. No, all of it's God's money. And when we give a portion of it to him, it's our way of saying, hey, God, you own it all. And here's part. And my desire is that your name would be lifted up. My desire with this money is that the nations would come to know Jesus because of what happens in this room, what happens at First Baptist and Little Cypress and the Nazarene and community. Regardless of denomination, our prayers that our resources, our time would be used to tell others about him. In verse 14, John continues to write, you are my friends if you do what I command. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing, but I called you friends. For all that I've heard from my Father, I've made known to you. Prior to this verse in scriptures, only Abraham had been called God's friend. But in this moment, the circle widens and the Lord invites these 11 disciples in to be called friends. And the reason I say 11 is Judas has already left at this point. But the relationship that Jesus had with his disciples was love. And as I was reading and studying, and I don't know where I've missed this. Any of y'all ever been in class and you've heard it, and all of a sudden it just clicks on you one time, you're going, I don't ever remember that before. But the Greek word for friend is philos. What's the Greek word for love? Phileo. I was going, where did I miss that? Sometimes you're just reading through things, so the word for friend is the same when we think about, like we talked about phileo, the brotherly love, the Philadelphia kind of love. But this word philos is friend. And so Jesus calls us friend, one that he loves. I mean, you have that person and you're like, man, they're a friend. They're as close as a brother. They're just like family to me. And so you see here where Jesus calls his disciples friends instead of servant. And the Greek word for servant here is this word doulos. And doulos is actually translated, really means slave. So when you hear the word slave, do you hear negative connotations in your mind? We think about the slavery that we have done in our country for enslaving those from Africa. We think of today slavery of children and trafficking. And so that word, when we think of slave, it just has a lot of negative connotation to the point of even translators, when they were translating this text, it's like, we're going to put the word servant in there because it just, servant is not as bad as slave, right? Okay, but you think about both of those, servants and slaves, neither one of them know the master's will. They have to follow the commands. Do this because you're my servant. Do this because you're my slave. But Jesus says, hey guys, you are friends. But even as a friend, I command you to love one another. I command you to do what I ask. But this relationship with them is different because Jesus is sharing with them what the Father has taught him. He is sharing with them the Father's plan, the Father's divine purpose in Jesus coming, and that he's going to, in 3 days, he's going to die, and then in 3 days, rise again. So Jesus has invited these disciples in as friends and is sharing with them what the Father has in store. And it's interesting, in verse 16, you see these words, you did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed. God chose us. It's not like when you go to Walmart, it's like, I wonder what religion I want. I'm going to go look for Buddhism or Hinduism or Islam or, I like this Christianity. It doesn't work like that. God chose us. He pursues us. And when we read this verse too, it also brings about some potential conflict inside of us. So did God choose me or did I choose him? Yes. So is God sovereign or is man free? Yes. We've had this conversation before. And so what does that look like? I mean, God paid this price and he pursues us. He loves us. He said, I died for you on the cross to pay the sin debt that you could not pay. And here's the free gift you get to choose. He does not force himself on any of us. We are allowed to choose, but he does everything. And so there's this tension there that we constantly say, is there, man, did I earn this? There's nothing that we do to earn our salvation. It's what God did for us on the cross. And so which we think back, when you flip back to the first part of John 15, it's this image of the vine where Jesus says, I'm the vine, we are the branches. And when we stay connected to the vine, we abide in the vine, we're connected. It says, then we're going to bear fruit. But as soon as we are disconnected, we're cut off from the vine, where are we at? We're on the pile. Remember that big pile of limbs out here in the back parking lot? It gets burned up. And so God prunes those that are not bearing fruit. And so this image of the vine is huge, because we want to stay connected to him. And only in staying connected to God do we have life, and do we bear fruit. And only then, too, when this phrase here, I flipped the page. You ever been there? Says, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give it to you. And so when we think about prayer, because this morning, hopefully you've already prayed in your life group. We prayed for people to be healed. There are people who are sick. Maybe you're praying for a job opportunity, for God to provide for you financially. Maybe you're asking God for direction. There's all these different things. And we're like, right here, hey, if I pray it in the Father's name, I'm going to get what I asked for, right? I mean, we want what we want, but ultimately we want what God wants for us. Because sometimes some of the things that I ask God, he needs to tell me no, because I'm asking with selfish reasons. But this image of, if we're connected to the vine and we're spending time with the Father, reading, knowing his word, hearing his voice, we're not going to ask for things that are out of line with who he is and what he is doing. But God does always answer our prayers. Sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is wait. But God chose us, and he appointed us that we would bear fruit. And our fruit is part of this abiding with him. And as we abide with him, we know him, and we talk to him, and our prayers get aligned with who he is. And we get to the last verse, verse 17. It's this same bookend. These things I command you, so that you will love one another. Love one another. Is love easy to do? No. Is love easy to remember? Yes. I mean, there are so many conversations that Michelle and I have been almost married 30 years, and there are conversations that we have to have multiple times, because I am a slow learner. Are any of y'all slow learners? Feel like I'm in good company? Yes, all right. My guys up here on the front row, let's hang out. I mean, the thing is, we know what we need to do, but we don't do it, because love, it takes work. Love is hard. Love is easy I remember Andy Stanley made a comment once. He said, if all of us showed love towards one another, we would not need law in the country. You wouldn't need speed limits. You wouldn't need a stop sign, because you'd be like, hey, you go first. Hey, let me take the slow lane. Come on around me. I mean, we wouldn't need the law if love was what motivated us. There wouldn't be fights at home between husband and wives. There wouldn't be fights between parents and kids, because the kids would be doing, what's the most loving thing I can do for my mom and dad today? Or my brother and sister. They never do anything wrong. I love them. We said no one ever, right? But that's Jesus' command to us, is we're to love one another. And it's simple to hear. It's easy to remember. It's difficult to carry out, because we as human beings are prickly, and we're changing, and we're difficult, and we're selfish, and we're all those words I used earlier. We're judgmental, and we're gossipy, and we're prideful. And when that kind of stuff feels rusty dollar, is it easy to love me? No, because when someone's acting that way, you're like, I I don't want to love you. I just want to go get in my car and drive somewhere else. I want to go to the other room. But the challenge is Jesus commands us, love one another. Look past the prickly and say, how can I show love? How can I show love to someone else? A couple commentators I read this week, they said it this way. He said, the central command to love one another has nothing to do with doctrine, church size, or order of worship. It could not be more simple to understand or more difficult to carry out. Love each other as I have loved you. Unity instead of rivalry. Trust instead of suspicion. Obedience instead of self-assertion must rule the disciples' common labors. The measure of their love for one another is that of his love for them, which would be further demonstrated in the near sacrifice that Jesus would make. As Christians, and that is our job, is to love one another just as Jesus loved us and gave his life for us. And sometimes, Christians, we can get so busy in loving God that we forget to love one another. Paul even says it, said it will be evident that you love God if you love people. And so they're intertwined, they're connected. We can't say we love God and hate our brother. We can't come in here and worship and then walk out in the car. Blah, 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 blah. Y'all ever had the fight right in the parking lot? Okay, man, once again, it's just my family. That's why we drive 5 cars to church. Okay, y'all pick up on that later. But we are on a journey together as North Orange Baptist Church, as the Dollar family, and as I look at all the families on pews in front of me, we're on a journey together. How do we love this God who created us, who died for us? How do we learn to love one another when loving is not always easy? But that's our call. That's our distinctive characteristic, that when people in our community think about North Orange Baptist Church, that's a place that loves people. That's a place that loves God. I pray that is what people say about us. But also, when we get it wrong, we can say that one word, will you forgive me? And Jesus said, hey, forgive up to 70 times 7. Forgiveness is unlimited, but it's hard because we don't want to get hurt again. But I'm a cat person, y'all know this, but I think we probably should be more like dogs. You ever had the dog that just, comes up to you, it just loves you, and then you're mean to it, and then 2 seconds later, it comes right back to you. It just keeps loving you, even though we can be cruel at times. And that's my prayer, is that we can just be that loving, faithful companion when people are sometimes harsh to us. God, just help us learn to love. Help us to be described by that. John 13:35, actually 15. By all this, people will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another. Let it be so.